Hi, and welcome to Inside Boxing's Throwdown. I'm Aurelio Martinez, Stephen Johnson, and we're here to talk about last week's fights. We got our 3 episodes here, and we're going to give you this week's nice show.
Hey, we have 1 episode, 3 segments.
That's right, baby. Okay. Well, people know how we roll. Okay. But anyhow, we're going to talk about in this first segment. We're going to talk about, like we always do, about the fights this past week. And I'll tell you what, Steve, we had some good fights, not without any controversy. You know, boxing. What would boxing be without the controversy? We had it in very legitimate controversy, and we'll talk about that. Mm-hmm. But let's go on and we'll talk about. We want to talk about the premiere show that happened this weekend, and that was between Beirut Shumenov and he fought BJ Flores. A couple of fighters that I'm really not impressed with. I think they've been around too long, and I think they just missed their calling. But come on, give us a little spill on the whole premiere action.
Well, premiere action, as far as I'm concerned, it's pretty much drying up as I thought it would do. Al Heyman started off on fire, giving us some great fights, and now that is watered down to the point now we have a Beirut Shumenov and BJ Flores, you know, in a fight, and the only word I can say is lackluster. Just a lackluster fight that it was. I thought that BJ did enough to win the fight, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. There's nothing that Premier is putting on now. Even we'll talk about it later, but even the next fights that they have come up, I mean, one fight might be interesting. The rest of them are pretty much bunk. So kudos to, I guess, to Beirut Shumenov for pulling out the once again controversial win, but that's as much as I can say about Premier.
You know, but where does he go from here? Okay, so he beat BJ and it's questionable, you know, on his win. So where does he go from here? I mean, obviously he's not going to be able to become a headliner with this type of action. He's not going to be able to be a big pay-per-view. So he still has some work to cut out. Okay, they both do. I mean, BJ but that's my point. They've been around the game. They've been in the circuit for a long time. Mm-hmm. You know, in boxing, you need to be able to take advantage and jump in there and make a move. You know, win, lose, or draw, you need to make a move. I think the only person that I know that can just kind of hang around on the sidelines and let time pass him and still make money is Andre Ward. Okay, mm-hmm. He's a gold medalist. I mean, if you don't have a gold medalist and you're not getting paid the money you get paid, you've got to make a move. Okay, mm-hmm. These two guys got to make a move. As a matter of fact, I'm to the point where their time is past, and now the youngsters are coming up, and it's time mm-hmm. to get. But getting back to your premiere, I think you're right. You know, I think we were seeing some nice action-packed boxing event on free TV, and people were sitting down, spending the weekend home watching the fight. But now it's like, you know, the quality of the fights have diminished. I mean, it's not something that boxing fans are interested. So you really have to be a hardcore boxing fan to sit there and watch these kind of fights. I mean,
I agree 100%. And like you said, great point that you made. You have to be a hardcore boxing fan because most of the boxing fans that will tune into an HBO or Showtime fight is because of the names. Absolutely. That's all I know is that I've heard this name before. And so now, like you said at premiere, and also it's kind of hard to get the schedule. I mean, sometimes fights will go off at 2:00, you know, Mountain Time, and then 5:00 Mountain Time, and you know, it's just not consistent with what. Well, actually, they are consistent now at this point. Yeah. It's consistent with the quality of the fight of the card itself is dropped down, and the timing and everything is dropped down. So, but like I said, I predicted that in the beginning. That how long could he keep paying these $1 million purses to these fights that weren't on HBO or Showtime? And then we found out, okay, he does have good, strong financial backing, but at some point that was going to dry up though, because these guys, like he said, we're going to give people the fights that they want to see.
Exactly.
Okay? That's where we have a problem. Is because we already knew that between Top Rank, Top Rank and Golden Boy, you know, the whole bit, there's a problem in getting the fighters that we wanted to see fight. That hasn't changed. These fighters are still, they're still camps. They're deep rooted, and nobody's letting their guys fight the other guys. So we still have the same problem.
You know, it's kind of. I hate to see boxing fans. I hate to see us lose the free TV. You know, And I think it's going to end up getting to that point where the ratings are going to drop, where the CBS and the NBCs, they're going to come out and say we can't continue to show this if we're not going to get the ratings. I mean, because it's advertising driven commercials, and the commercial people are going to say, no, I don't want my commercial to run through that time. I mean, there's just the ratings.
Well, for that money,
I mean,
it's
so I mean, it's a shame, and I think this would have been the opportune time to build up fighters instead of going out there and paying this enormous amount of money on names that are out there already. Why not grab a few and then grab a bunch of upcoming? That way on the free TV you can highlight it with a decent name and then highlight the upcoming boxers. It's still good matching and show someone coming up. Kind of like what Showbox does. Showbox, they highlight the up and coming
fighters. That's exactly what
and then they advance and they get into the regular Showtime. Right. That would have been ideal, but obviously that didn't happen. I don't think it's going to happen. Honestly, I think our time is limited. Hopefully, we'll stay with free TV, but I think the Premier Boxing, the Al Heyman thing, I think I think we're going to see that exit.
Well, you made a good point. They can't back up now, and they can't do a Showbox New Generation. Remember, that was the whole thing with Showbox's New Generation.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Saturday night, where we had one good fight, one not so good fight. But let's start off first with that undercard bout where we had Jean Pascal taking on Mr. Gonzalez in a light heavyweight bout. Talk about that fight.
You know what, I feel bad not only for Gonzalez because he did what he had to do, and he
say it. Just say it.
He won the fight, and it wasn't even close to where you can call it where you'd have 50-50 where people are saying no, he Pascal won the fight, Gonzalez. It was clearly a robbery. I mean, it was clearly a robbery, and it's unfortunate that the audacity of these people, they can just do this on national TV, and I don't know what. Help me out, Steve. Is it poor judging? Is it the judging that their lack of educated to judge a big fight like this, or does boxing have a hidden agenda?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I do know this. All three judges saw the fight 96-94 in favor of Pascal, and they're the only three in the world, in the arena,
in the world,
on TV that saw it like that.
In the world.
I mean, if you had one judge that, if it would have been a split decision, we might be able to swallow that. But unanimous.
I mean,
you know what, Radio? Let me just say this, and I think all of y'all will agree with this. There was some serious infighting going on. Those boys were fighting. There was some definitely fighting. Here was the deciding thing to me. Every time they had serious exchanges, when the exchange stopped, who backed up?
Pascal.
Every single time. And that's what we, as pro boxing fans, we know who is winning by the guy that, what did we say? Imposes his will. He imposed his will on Jean Pascal. And there's no questioning that. So like you said,
I'm going to tell you
decision, I don't know.
Forget about the decision. The fight itself, to me, was a good fight.
Yes.
It was actually stemming on being a great fight. Not because it was competitive like that, because number one, Jean Pascal, his heart. I mean, there was no give in him, and he came back and he swung and he delivered his power punches, and he didn't quit. I mean, and that's what made it a good fight. And on the other side, you had a young up and coming guy in Gonzales, Cuban defector that came in, and he's making a name, and he did everything he had to do. He didn't give up. It wasn't like he didn't get hit and get tagged. I mean, he got tagged and got rocked on a couple of occasions.
Oh yeah.
But guess what? He came right back. That's what made this fight such a good fight.
Yes.
Obviously, it was clear cut who won the fight.
Yes.
But as far as action and competition, great fight, good fight.
Yes.
I mean, it was just one of them fights that as a boxing fan you want to see.
So it was like Aurelio says, great fight. But before we end this segment, let's talk about the main event, which was Kovalev versus Muhammadi. And I'm going to say this right quick, and then I'll let you take it. Sergey Kovalev now has resorted to basically fighting bums, and it was terrible. We can talk about it a little more if you want to, but this all falls on the in the lap of Abel Sanchez. Abel Sanchez ran his mouth about Muhammad Jesus, said what he was going to do, and you remember Kovalev came out and he said, "I'm going to beat him up.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to take it easy on beat him up." And after he knocked him down the first time, remember he told him, because it looked like our boy wanted to quit, and he said to him, "Get up," you know.
Yeah,
and
it was.
So it was terrible, but
you know, and it was. I mean, Kovalev, you know, he's showing that he has the skills and the mentality to get in there and fight with anybody. Okay, this was clearly a mismatch. Why Abel would go in there and run his mouth. You know, there's some. What made this fight interesting is there's bad blood, but it wasn't so much between Kovalev and
it was Sanchez and Kovalev.
And his opponent. It was Sanchez because they were both at the Big Bear training camp, and I guess somehow Abel Sanchez was trying to take credit, saying he was the one training and teaching Kovalev, and Kovalev actually came out in the statement saying he never was my trainer. He never taught me anything. He was just there at the same place.
Yeah, it was ugly.
You know, and I'm not a big Abel Sanchez fan. I'm gonna just tell you that right now. I've been in boxing all my life, okay, and you can kind of see the trainers that really work toward building champions and stuff like that, okay, and I just don't see that in Abel Sanchez, you know. And you see it in others like Robert Garcia, and you see it in Roger Mayweather. You see it in
Freddie Roach.
Freddie Roach. I mean, you see it in these trainers. Their hearts into their training. I don't see that in Abel. As a matter of fact, in Abel, what I see is everything's about him. You know, even down to the amateurs where he trains the WSB American team. It's all about him, and you know, where it shouldn't be. You know, I train boxers and stuff, but very seldom am I going to put myself on top. It's about the fighter. It's about the job I do to try to get the fighter ready for the fight. And I've had some pretty good fighters. And the thing about it is, it's not about the trainer. It's about the fighter in the ring, and that's the way it should be. And it's just my opinion, but that's the feeling I get over Abel, and I think he's going to have to change that.
Good job.
He's going to have to change that.
All right, that's segment number one. We finished up. We'll come back here in just a second. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to talk about the upcoming fight this weekend. The one I guess a lot of people are looking forward to just because of one of the guys, you know, and that's Paulie Malignaggi and Danny Garcia. They're going to fight at Barclays Center in New York. Lil?
That's right.
We'll talk about that when we come right back.
Stay tuned. Come back and watch the second segment where we'll talk about this upcoming fights, all right? And until then, hold them hands up.
Keep them up.